In this next unit, we are going to read from J.B. Phillips, The New Testament in Modern English. In our ongoing study of the Gospel of Matthew, we find ourselves at Matthew chapter 9 and verses 6 to 7. But to make it quite plain that the Son of Man has full authority on earth to forgive sins. And here he spoke to the paralytic, "Get up, pick up your bed, and go home." And the man sprang up on his feet and went home. In the world of investment, there will always be some who try to cheat the system. In particular, we are talking of people who take advantage of people's greed and gullibility. A Ponzi scheme is one example of a fraudulent financial plan. Ponzi schemes work as long as you have people continuing to invest in them. In a Ponzi scheme, there is no real business plan. Investors put money into the plan, and that money is used to provide returns to earlier investors. There is the illusion that the plan is legitimate. The plan will work as long as money continues to be invested in it, as this allows investors to be paid a return. The problem is that these plans eventually collapse as the money coming in no longer is able to continue the returns for the investors. When you look at the religious leaders of Jesus' day, understand that from their perspective, they saw Jesus as offering a religious Ponzi scheme. The words sounded nice and looked good, but they felt that things could not actually be real. You see, the religious leaders were thinking that things would eventually crash and the people who were following Jesus would be seen as gullible. You see, they wanted to see Jesus as the master of the spiritual Ponzi scheme. The problem was that Jesus tells this man to pick up his bedroll and mosey on home. You see, the religious leaders felt if they could push Jesus to that point, that the life and ministry of Jesus would collapse. They felt that there was no way that Jesus could actually bring about that physical healing. But what happens? The problem is that it did not work the way they wanted. The man did walk away. Blaise Pascal, 1623 to 1662, a philosopher, mathematician, and a Christian apologist, is famous for what came to be known as Pascal's wager. Let me paraphrase what Pascal said. He said, in effect, that every person can make one of two choices with their lives. One can say that there is no God and live life according to that idea. Or a person can live life as if God is real. If you live life as God is not real and you are wrong, well, that has eternal consequences. If you live life for God and then there is no God, all you stand to lose is a few things in this life. Pascal's wager centers on the fact that it makes more sense to live for God than to not live for God because of the potential consequences. The fact is that you and I have to invest in something. The question for all is whether that something is nothing more than a glorified Ponzi scheme. In other words, there are many things that you can give your heart and life to in this world that will leave you at the end of the day as bankrupt as an investor in a Ponzi scheme. It is easy to lose sight in this passage that the man was healed. What do I mean? He was and was not the center of attention. On one level, he was just a prop in the religious leaders' argument. The religious leaders did not care for this man. Jesus in all of this never lost sight of the need that this man had to be healed. the focus now shifts to him. Now, think about it for a moment. Think of all the pressure on this man because the attention and spotlight focuses on him. Who and what Jesus is for that moment in time caught up with what this individual does. That is a real source of pressure. Now, also add for the fact that if you have not been walking for an extended period of time, it's not going to just happen just like that. You know, there's going to be some hesitation to get up because you're not used to walking. He could have said it is not possible for me to be healed and sat there. In that moment of time, he had to offend the religious leaders and he had to put his trust in the words of Jesus and the person of Jesus. We all, in fact, have that choice. We all must decide who we are to follow. Will we invest all we are and who we are in Jesus?